There we go. Okay, so I started a folder that will contain any kind of resources that we might come across that might be useful. One of the things that I did put in that folder was the definition list from David Davis, who put together a good document that has definitions from, can't remember when it was, 17 some odd years ago.
55?
Something like that. So, so that you can refer to those. I've also put in there a PDF of the Constitution in case you don't have a copy for some reason. So you can just open that and read that. We'll post the link on our Everyday Constitution page. I'm trying to see if there's a good spot. If we want to put it with those, do we want to put it maybe with the Zoom link, Jim?
Sure, we can do that.
Okay, so we'll do that, and then you'd be able to have access. And if anybody has any, it's a read only, so you have access to look at it. You don't have anything to drop in, but if you want to let us know so we can look over the information and pop those resources in as we find them, then the more info you guys have, the better knowledgeable you'll be. So thanks, David. I see that 1755, he chatted me, so okay.
All right, let me get back to my speaker view. Connie, I see you're here. I did not realize that was you today with that group call. I saw it coming in when I was getting a whole bunch of, wasn't that you on Messenger?
It was, but I don't know what happened because I think my friend may have, I don't know, it was weird. I wasn't actually calling.
All right. Well, I saw you were in it. I didn't recognize anybody else, so I just,
No.
I was in the midst of getting a whole bunch of Venmo requests from people I don't know for gas for their car, and I don't know what happened. And then that call came in, so I just bailed out. So, but if it's important, just get a hold of me. So
Oh, well, thank you.
All right, let me see. So I'm gonna go back to speaker view. Or I'm not. That's right, not today, ISIS. Guy's trying to get my money from me. All right, for some reason I can't go to speaker views. Well, I'll just leave it. All right, so where are we at? 26, fair. Got to get these numbers up though. Let's start sharing it with our friends, getting people in here. Where are we starting tonight? I think we ended right at section 3, article 1, section 3, clause 2, right? So I guess we'll get into that. Does anybody have questions about last week? Anything from section 3 on back?
I'm assuming you saw the ones that were on the Facebook page.
I did. I think it was answered pretty well.
I thought so.
Yeah. I mean, I saw the one that came in. Was there more? I don't think there was more, right? It was just the one.
I think I only saw. Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
only saw one.
she wasn't going to be here.
Alicia, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have it pulled up?
I'm
Yeah.
looking at it now.
Yeah, you want to read it real quick? Just see if anybody wants to chime in on it.
Sure. So Alicia was not going to be here, but she said on last week's discussion, I wanted to make sure I was reading Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3 correctly. Not only does it require a count of all people every 10 years to distribute taxes and determine representation, but it also doesn't require those counted to be citizens. Am I reading that correctly? Has it changed?
And I think it was answered pretty well. But somebody had brought up a good point that I think it was maybe Wayne that brought it up, is that back in 1775, 76, or, you know, I guess 1787, when we were getting the Constitution going, I mean, were they worried about illegal immigrants? I mean, everybody here was an immigrant at that point, right? Everybody who was coming in was an immigrant. There weren't really illegal immigrants. You were just an American at that point. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, personally, that's probably something that the courts have to decide. I don't know if we can. I mean, that's a tough one to just read from the Constitution and think, well, clearly they meant just people that are here legally, because really anybody that was coming into the country was here legally at that point. I think. Do I have any of my 10s on here? Anybody who said they're a 10 on the Constitution that wants to chime in on this? Do I have
I guess
Justice Alito? Is he here?
You gotta find the definition of a citizen, right? I mean, how do you define that?
Yeah, and I looked up citizen before, and I don't think citizen has changed much.
I don't think it has.
I mean, citizen's just basically somebody who's living in a country. And that's a good question. And still, I mean, there's still questions every time the census comes around. We have questions about it. You know, should we be counting people that aren't legally allowed to be here? Or should we just be counting citizens? But then again, I mean, if we're going to start giving money to people that aren't legally in the country, then I guess they should be counted, right? But do they get representation, which is really what this is about? I mean, are they allowed to have representation here in our country when they're not here legally? And that's going to be a thing for the court. I mean, we could probably discuss that round and round.
I think I ride the fence on that myself, only because if you play devil's advocate, or if you just try and think of it open-mindedly, whatever cities or states have a large, say, illegal immigrant population, they have to deal with that somehow. And I think funding for that, they've got to ask for help from the feds to do that. So in order to know how many people are there that they're going to support, right?
I guess the other side of that, and don't kill me here. The other side is that maybe it is also up to the feds to enforce our immigration policy and not put those states in that position.
I agree,
You
100%.
know? I mean, because once you start paying all that money out, what's the incentive to not come? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
No,
But as far as the census goes, do you count people that are here illegally?
Well, and here's the thing then, I know you need money to help deal with that population, but what's to say, hey, I'm going to get more money if I let more illegal immigrants here?
Right.
You know, that,
Well, and then, so what happens when you get an administration in there that is going to follow the immigration laws and they end up deporting a lot of people? Now, do you lose funding immediately when those people are deported? I mean, it's a big thing, man.
it's huge.
It's a big thing.
Huge money.
But yeah, you know, citizen is exactly what we think it means. Back in 1825, they have it as the native of a city or an inhabitant who enjoys the freedom and privileges of the city in which he resides. Well, I mean, I guess.
Listen to this, though. Here's something interesting. Here is the definition of citizen from 1755. Definition 1, a freeman of a city, not a foreigner, not a slave. That's most interesting.
All right. So the dictionary definition leading up to the Constitution is not a foreigner. But
Right.
then we're creating this country. So was anybody a foreigner at that point? You know what I
Right.
mean? Everybody was allowed in. But it's not like it was now, obviously.
Right.
We don't have airports, we don't have planes.
Definition 3 for citizen is an inhabitant, a dweller in any place, which is also interesting.
Yeah, I mean, as far as and the question was really about the census and how they're counting. I mean, we can get into immigration all day.
Right.
But I think the answer's on there. Who answered that? Did you answer it, Bill, for?
Yeah, I did.
All right. I mean, I think that answer is probably that summed it up. All right. So what time is it here? So we're at 10. We got to get going. This whole thing, man, section 1 is going to take me a lot longer than I thought. I thought really I thought there was a chance we were going to get through it in one night, and we got to section 3. So my guess is we got 2 more nights of article 1. And I know some of the stuff is dry and some of it is boring, but this is the bones of the Constitution right here, right? Everybody likes the Bill of Rights because that deals with you and what, you know, our rights are and what the government can't take from us. But knowing how the government is supposed to be set up is probably more important. We know what our rights are. This tells the government what their authority is. And this is where you're going to find that they are abusing their authority every single day. So just bear with us through these articles here, and we'll get through them. Questions, anything? Moving on.
nope, I'm just trying to get some links out to people, so.
All right. And I guess people are saying they found the link under announcements. I'll try to work on that. I thought it was a pin post. I thought it should have been one of the very first things on top of the page.
Yeah, it should be at the top.
Yeah, it's not.
No, it is. I think it is. I think it's pinned at the top of the page.
All right, because it was pinned for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
All right, but I'll look at that. But listen, when you guys log on, this is the link every week. It's never going to change. So, all right, so we'll move on here. We'll get into section 3, clause 2. And remember that we're still in Article 1. And we are,
Hey, Jim,
yep,
I tried to raise my hand and you didn't see it.
I'm never
So,
going to see it. That's
for the-
Renee.
For the question.
Yeah, but if you have a question, throw it into the chat and then I can, because I have
Oh.
speaker view to be able to record, so I can't see hands either.
All right, I'm gonna be driving pretty soon, so I'm not gonna be typing.
Uh,
But my only question is it gonna be taboo to change that language about citizenship and that whole entire thing? You think it's too much of a hot topic for them to get into, or you think that's something that should be done?
As far as changing it for the Constitution, like putting
Yeah,
the language in the
the-
Constitution.
Yeah, for the language of citizen as opposed to, the census.
So you mean actually changing the existing language and not necessarily a new amendment?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're gonna append it, you're gonna kind of change it, but it would help out a lot of people if they figure that out
Well, it would.
one way or the other.
It would, but it's obviously, it's not as easy as, just the House deciding they're going to do it. I mean, it's got to, if you're going to amend the Constitution, man, they got to, they've got to go through the right channels. And I don't know. That's a good question. I think the easiest way to do it is probably for Supreme Court rulings to come down without changing the actual language. They can rule on the interpretation. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. And immigration is going to be a thing for the next however many elections, right?
For our lifetime.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's going to go back and forth. It's going to be, conservatives get in and we're going to enforce immigration.
And then,
Liberals get in and they're going to be a lot more lax on it. It's just going to go back and forth every election cycle. But the question is whether or not you count them for representation. And I guess that's really the question, because representation are you entitled to representation when you're not here legally, when you don't enjoy all the rights of citizens? And personally, I don't think the answer is yes on that.
I
Are
don't
they
think it
entitled-
should be yes.
Are they entitled to representation when you arrest them?
They're entitled to some representation. Sure they are. I mean, they still fall under our laws at that point. And really, whenever we arrest anybody from out of the country, we are obligated to notify their consulate immediately.
Oh, wow.
So their consulates for anything, any violation at all, minus traffic, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, we have to notify their consulate immediately. So if they get picked up for shoplifting and they're a French citizen, we have to notify the French consulate in Washington, D.C. immediately that they've been arrested, and they will arrange whatever they have to arrange for those people. So yeah, I mean, they certainly have rights. We're not, just because you're here, it's just not a free for all, but
that's their French representation then, right? Because
yeah, I mean, they arrange for everything, right?
well, and one thing that Brad Chamberlain mentioned is it'll bring, one of the big debates will be the term natural born citizen. So that's
true. That's true. It's all wording, right? And even worse, it's all interpretation now at this point. It's interpretation by whoever's in court. So, because unfortunately, the guys who wrote it aren't here.
And we'd like to say hello to Jacob, 9-year-old son who's learning about the Constitution with us, of Steve Hayes. So hi,
Oh.
Jacob.
Okay, good
Hi,
to know.
Jacob.
Good to know. If everybody could kind of, do you have your mute button ready for me? Jacob, sometimes I use bad words. I try not to. It's not appropriate. I'm just telling you right now. We're going to try hard. All right, so let's get into section 3, clause 2. There is one change in clause 2. Did we go over clause 2, or is that where we stopped?
We stop.
That's where we stopped.
Did we get through it?
No,
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. So there is going to be one change in the middle of this due to the 17th Amendment, which is a pain. And I'll tell you where that change comes. But what it says is immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. Now we're talking about the Senate here. The seats of the senator, now this is the part that changed. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the second year of the second class of the expiration of the fourth year and of the third class at the expiration of the sixth year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every second year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill the vacancies. So basically what's happening here is that our senators are going to be split up into three groups. So we're only getting rid of 1/3 of them every election cycle. So they serve a full 6, but every 2 years, 1/3 of them comes up for reelection. Now the change came in the 17th Amendment, and we should probably talk about this because I don't really understand it myself. Because if you remember, the Senate is supposed to represent the states. The House, that's the people's house, they represent the people, right? So the way it used to be was that the states would appoint their own senators. When the 17th Amendment came along, now it is given the voters the right to vote, to elect those representatives that are supposed to represent the states. So these were supposed to be separate things. The Senate was states, the House is the people, and somehow along the line in the 17th Amendment, they decided that we were going to go ahead and elect senators. So that's where the change came. But basically the clause is just explaining how they're going to be elected and how long their terms are going to be and how those elections are going to go. Discuss?
I'd say we probably will have more discussion when we get to the 17th Amendment.
No, we're going to have a lot of discussion. 17th Amendment really messed things up. I mean, what do you guys think though? I mean, what do you guys think about the fact that people are electing senators now? Whereas the states, they're supposed to have the states' rights in mind as they do their thing, not the people's rights. I mean, it's all one and the same, but they are there to represent the states, whereas the House is there to represent us. And I just think it's kind of, I don't know. I don't understand the thinking to allow the people to elect both houses when clearly they wanted them separate.
So who then would you have appoint the senators then?
It's the legislature.
Well, that's up to the states, right? That was up to the states back then. Their legislatures would appoint who they wanted to go represent the states. So Ohio, the legislatures there would decide, we're going to send these 2 guys to go represent the state's interest.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm sure I can read about it and I'm sure I could figure out why they made that change. I was just hoping somebody knew so I didn't have to.
My first thought is, okay, who are they picking? Are they picking one of their own to go and represent the state? If so,
No, maybe that was the thing. Maybe that was the thing, that it was who you knew and they weren't picking the best guys.
whoever's being a pain, okay, let's send him to Washington and then we can get some stuff done here in the States.
Maybe,
Let's get rid of Larkin, send him out there.
maybe. Come on. I got a few.
And
That's
maybe
what
it
I
was
was
to
thinking.
avoid corruption on all levels.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Maybe that's probably it. And I haven't, I just haven't. I see Dan raised his hand. Did Dan raise his hand again? I got a notification here.
Oh, you
Yes,
got a notification?
Maybe he left his hand up.
Oh, all right.
Maybe a
Uh,
little quid
my
pro
guess, and you
quo.
know what? I'll read about it. I'll jump into my Heritage Bible here and I'll read about why they made that change, hopefully.
Well, a quick Google search says the arguments for the 17th Amendment sounded in the case for direct democracy. The problem of hung state I can almost say that word today, legislatures, and in freeing the Senate from the influence of corrupt state legislators.
There it is.
Legislatures.
There it is. So
So
I guess that
was my quick Google search. So
and that makes sense, but I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that if Ohio sends corrupt legislators there, senators there, you think Ohio would want to do something about that, right? I mean, the governor should have the ultimate say. I don't know.
It looks like.
But you got the problem we have now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the people aren't above screwing up elections. That's for sure.
I think part of it goes back to also the idea between direct representation of people and states' rights. And I know that during the Constitutional Convention, the general theme or the thought was amongst a lot of the people was that the legislative branch was going to be the most dangerous. And the reason it might be dangerous is because it would have the power to make law. And so I think they sought to balance states' rights, states' powers versus individual representation,
And not only law, but taxes.
right, into a federal system that was actually going to be two-tiered, where you would have states acting as individual entities with their own representation, but they wouldn't be able, the tail wouldn't be able to wag the dog.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right on. Anybody else?
Well, your rugged constitution book says that they said that the method of the legislature electing the senators did not work very well. Some members of the legislatures were suspected of taking bribes to choose certain men as senators.
Mhm.
So,
Really? So the 17th Amendment stopped all of our congressmen from taking bribes? That's good to know. That's good to know, because I thought this was a problem still.
It stopped your state legislature from taking bribes to make senators.
Oh,
It didn't
I
work.
don't know,
correctly.
man. Jim Trafficant,
It just opened up the big
Yeah.
corporations.
right.
I think we can say that was a failure.
Right. Oh, boy. All right, moving on. Move on to 3.
Yep.
All right, so we'll move on to Article 1, Section 3, Clause 3, which is no person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. I feel like we hit, I don't know, we had a question about this before.
I thought we ended on 3 and we were gonna start with 4 this week.
Well, did we? Because I thought we had a question about this where somebody was confused because it says shall not been an inhabitant of the state.
No,
Correct.
that was on
That's
the,
the exact
We
same
had that
wording.
same double negative with the House.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it was
that
a
might have been
repeat.
it.
Same wording.
That might have been it. All right. So basically then, 3 is
the double negative.
just laying out the qualifications for being a senator. Now, if you notice, and I don't know why again, but they are stricter requirements than to be a representative. Because if you remember, the reps had to be 25 years old and only a citizen for 7 years. The senators obviously have to be 30 and have to be a citizen for 9. So I don't know why the distinction was made. Where's my Google girls, man? If you could, is that Holly that looked up on Google? I don't know why that was changed.
I see.
don't know. Anybody?
They wanted more mature, experienced senators to know the problems of the nation and their state.
All right, well, I guess 5 years back then was probably a lot more mature since they were
Right.
living to be 45 years old.
You know what I find interesting is the wording that says shall be a citizen of the United States for what, 9 years, I think, in the clause.
Right, yep, in this one, yes.
And then where they instituted the census, they didn't say, back to that question that came on the Facebook page. They didn't say we're gonna count all the citizens, we're just gonna count all the people. So I mean, they did know there was a difference between the populace at large and citizens of the United States.
Well, they knew there was some difference because they carved out the Indians.
Well, and they wanted to count women, but men were citizens more than women were citizens even at that time.
And
So
depending on when we're talking about, remember too, we got the slaves that are 3/5 of a person. So I mean,
So
there was distinctions certainly made between classes. And
The quick answer about the senator is it says basically, Madison justified the higher age requirement for senators by its deliberative nature. The senatorial trust, quote unquote, called for, quote, greater extent of information and stability of character than that would be needed for a more democratic House of Representatives. So I guess they just wanted somebody who was a little more mature and
yeah,
better depth of character. Okay.
Again, there was a struggle between direct representation of people in the House versus what quality of representation would you get? And, I think it was thought at the time that the states wanted to ensure that they had, like she just said, more stable representation. So they thought of the Senate as a different tier, to balance the theoretical incompetence of the House.
well, and the rugged Constitution that I love so much, that's one of the things, you know, if you guys, I know a lot of you guys got the copies of the rugged Constitution, and at the end, and I think I showed you guys this, at the end of each article or each whatever we're talking about, it shows you what you give and what you get, right? So what we're giving the government, what authority we give them, and what we get in return for that. So what we gave them were requirements for senators stricter than those who are representatives. What we get are mature, experienced senators who know the problems of the nation and their states. And that's probably it, where, you know, the House only needs to know, right there, it's the people. The people get to reach out to their state reps. They know their districts. But the states were looking for somebody that understood how the entire state was working and not just this district, to protect their states. So I guess that 5 years back then probably made a big difference.
I think that sums it up really well.
All right, good.
That's it right there.
Point me. What's up?
Good job.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Done.
Going to end on a high point. All right, we'll move on then to Section 3, Clause 4. And we're going to get into the Vice President, his role, which is the Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. And it means what it says, right? So right now, Mike Pence is the President of the Senate. He just kind of watches everything take place. He doesn't get involved too much unless there's a 50-50 tie. Then he is the deciding vote. Now, normally that'll go along party lines, I would guess. But it's important for him to be there, and for the continuity, right? If something were to happen to Donald Trump, that puts him right there in the middle of treaties, in the middle of bills that are passed, in the middle of new laws, and he's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on with the country. Yeah, that one's pretty easy. Questions, discussion on that? And the rugged Constitution, what you're getting, they say, is a president of the Senate, a man who has been elected by the people, not appointed. So I guess that's, now, the only time that the president or the vice president is not in charge of the Senate, we'll get to that, but does anybody know? And he is not the president of the Senate?
I think when he assumes the presidency, right?
No. The only time that the vice president would not be the president of the Senate. We just saw it. When the president of the United States, when they are trying an impeachment against the president of the United States, right? The Senate, the House brings up the articles of impeachment. They make their case and the Senate gets to try it. So when the Senate is trying the president of the United States, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court then sits in as the president of the Senate, because they obviously don't want the vice president being that deciding vote on whether the president is guilty or not. So another fun little tidbit that I just heard today. I can't remember where I heard it, and I think it was 1954 when Richard Nixon was the president of the Senate. He was using the same gavel that had been used since, I believe, 1789, and he went to smack it down and broke it. 1954 it was the original gavel of the Senate. That was today in history. Boom.
Wow.
2 points, me. Renee, are you keeping
Good
track?
job.
You keeping track? I got 2 points.
Okay.
I got 2. I'm going to give Dave 1 because David always comes in with incredible stuff. So I'll give him 1 point. And Holly on Google, I'll give her 1.
I'm sorry. I think David gets 3 because we posted the definitions.
All right, then you're going to have to give me 4. I have to be running. All right, so we'll get into Clause 5 here. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 5. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a president pro tempore, which is temporary, basically, in the absence of the vice president, or when he shall exercise the office of president of the United States. So pro tempore means temporarily. Senate gets to choose who all their officers are. When we're talking about their officers, let's see if I wrote notes down on this. Hopefully I did. Sure did not.
It's in the rugged Constitution.
You're talking about, is it? Nope, there it is, right there. So you got the president pro tempore, you got the secretary, sergeant at arms, chaplain, secretary to the majority, secretary to the minority. They are all appointed positions. If something were to happen, like Kennedy's days, right? When the president gets assassinated, vice president has to assume the role of president, then they will assign or appoint a president of the Senate temporarily until the new vice president assumes his role. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Questions on that? Anything that you don't understand that we need to talk about?
No, just that they're really bothered by the fact that they spelled choose CHUSE.
Yeah, they did. I read something else about that. There were a couple words in there that they did that with.
As Brad points out, and Brad has had a lot of little tidbits in here that are good on the chat, but he said that the English language wasn't formalized yet. They had to figure out how to spell American English.
Sure. Well, and you know what else? You got to remember that when the Constitution was written, there was no country called the United States.
Right.
So when they refer to the United States as they're writing this thing, they're literally referring to states that are united here, right? Everybody is separate. There is no United States until this Constitution. We declared our independence, but the Constitution is what formed the United States. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, they were still British, basically, right? They're calling themselves Americans, but everybody there was British.
In fact, fun fact, another fun little fact, on the Liberty Bell, Pennsylvania is actually misspelled because the spelling is one of the several acceptable spellings of the name at the time. So it just all wasn't formalized, like you said.
Fun fact. Love fun facts. All right. Moving on then, I guess we'll go into clause 6, Article 1, Section 3, clause 6. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. While sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath of affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. So we just went through this, and that's big. I mean, they give the Senate the sole power. Nobody else, Supreme Court, nobody can get involved in it. So then it has the sole power to say yes or no. And the other thing is, it's not for the senators, it's not 2/3 of the Senate need to convict, it's 2/3 of the members present, which means that if you have, senators that don't agree with this whole thing and decide not to show up, it's still going to be 2/3 of whoever's there. It's not like they can just not show up and then this doesn't happen. So, and my guess is that that's probably put in there for that very reason, because if you get a Republican president who is being tried and all the Republicans could say, you know what, we're just not going to show up for it, doesn't matter, because now he can still be convicted by 2/3 of whoever's there.
I'm not sure about on the Senate side of the House, but I know in a lot of these legislative bodies, you have to have a certain number of the quorum. Yeah, so you have to have a certain amount of people present to even have a session.
Right. But there's no mention of a quorum for trying impeachments. So I wonder if, the whole purpose of that was so that they couldn't be blocked, right? If you got if only 3 senators show up, then 2 of the 3 say, yeah, then he's guilty, I guess. Yeah, anything else? Questions, discussion on that?
Yeah, man, that second sentence where it talks about oath or affirmation, does that mean like they should have been under oath instead of the word on?
I think on I think it's probably interchangeable, right? They're on an oath or affirmation. It's got it. Yeah,
they all get sworn in.
I think that's just their mode of speaking back then.
Yeah, that's how I take it.
Yeah.
You're on an oath. Yep. Anything I'm missing? All right. Moving along then, let's get to Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. So the way I read this, and is basically is the Senate, all they can do if they find you guilty is that they can remove you from office and disqualify you from ever holding another office for the United States of America. Once they remove you from office, because the president is not, he's immune to being prosecuted for most crimes, right? I mean, we got high crimes and misdemeanors, treason, that kind of thing. He can be arrested for, and he can be taken to court over, but he can't, there's no other crimes. Once he's removed from office, all those protections go away. So if he does something criminal, he can be removed under the impeachment clause, and then they're just throwing him to the vultures at that point. He can still end up in jail, just not from the Senate. The
So
Senate,
I guess this whole impeachment thing that was going on recently, I kind of had the opposite view. So my interpretation, what was being said at that time, was that the president was immune from prosecution while they were sitting as the president, but they could be impeached for high crimes and misdemeanor. Once they were impeached, then the prosecution could go forward. That was kind of how I had conceptualized that.
well, no, and that's right. I think we're probably saying the same thing, just different words. No, you're absolutely right. We're not going to walk in there and arrest the president, for any crimes. He's not going to be taken out of the Oval Office for bribery, right? We're not going to put him in jail. He's not going to go to jail for 6 months in Lorraine County jail because he did something wrong, and then and it's just, that doesn't make any sense. But he gets impeached for it and he's out, then he's going to be sitting in Lorraine County jail, and I'm going to be bringing him.
I think they're allowed to wait. I think they're allowed to wait until he's not a sitting president, and then they can bring him up on charges.
Oh yeah, and that's what, and that's a lot of what they're saying now about Donald Trump. There's the other side is saying that once he's out, they're going to put him in jail. But listen, man, if Hillary ain't in jail, I don't think anybody's going to jail.
That oath or affirmation is a well-known oath. It's the I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign or domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. They swear all the senators in at the beginning of the trial.
Yep, and not everybody upholds their oath, even though they swore on the Bible to uphold their oath. And as we go through this, I'm sure there's things that you guys are already seeing that are, that you're like, hey, wait a minute. There's only one way to fix this. It's time to start putting mechanics in there. It's time to start putting farmers in there. It's time to start putting your neighbors in there, man. Stop it, Renee.
Police officers.
Stop it. But really, I mean, that's really going to be the only way to fix this, right? We got to get rid of these career politicians, man, that have forgotten what their oaths are about and are willing to take lobbyist money over their oath. But yeah, until the apathy stops in this country and we start holding them accountable, that is where, man, they work for us. And if they're not doing our job, if they're not doing the job that we put them in there for, if they're not holding up to their oath, that's it. Out. I mean, there should be no, well, I'm going to give him another chance, or, well, he did this good. He violated his oath of office. There is nothing else higher than that. But we keep voting them in. Same guys every time. Same girls every time.
Yep.
So as long as that apathy keeps going, we're going to be in the same boat we're in now. But you guys learn what the Constitution says, and you look at your congressman now and you say, absolutely, you violated your oath. You violated the Constitution that you swore to uphold and defend. You're out. You're out. And we primary them out. But we also need people to run, right? I mean, we can't just primary somebody out when we have, it makes me sick when I go on these primaries and they're running unopposed. I mean, we got to get people to run. Renee, stop it. I know what you're going to say.
Jim.
What do I know? Probably know as much as AOC, but what do I know?
You know more than AOC.
That's a very low bar to jump over.
I swear too much and I drink too much. I don't know.
So you'd fit right in.
I would fit right in. I would probably be the Speaker of the House. I don't know. God, could you imagine that shit show? Speaker of the House. Pouring my bourbon during all.
Moving on.
boy.
Oh, no.
What?
Are we drinking?
No, not yet. Not yet. Water. All right, we got 20 minutes before we can go. Son of a, can't drink.
Son of a gun.
I'm over for president. What are you talking about?
Oh, gosh.
President.
Oh, now we come to gun,
I
huh?
don't want that job. I want a job where I can make a difference. All right,
Let's start with governor.
let's stop it. Let's all just stop talking. Let's move on to clause 1 and let's get into section 4. That's
It's a
exciting.
pattern forming here.
All right.
Yes.
So
Okay.
There's a mutiny. There's a mutiny.
there is. I don't like this. I feel
Okay,
attacked.
we're digressing.
Yeah, there's no bullying either on this page. I'd like you to know. I feel bullied right now. All right, so let's move on. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for Senate and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. So now we're getting into it. Now we're getting into election law, right? Does anybody see any problems with what's going on today? Any violations maybe of section 4, clause 1?
Pennsylvania is an absolute.
We're not going to be political here.
It's not political.
Not political.
This is constitutional for
It
sure.
is.
Yeah, listen, Pennsylvania, it appears absolutely violated the Constitution of the United States. Now you got to remember that, and we haven't gotten there yet, but Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution promises every state a Republican form of government. Now, don't think of it as Republican Democrat, right? It's promising you a Republican form of government with separate branches where you have a legislative branch that makes the laws. And the problem in Pennsylvania is, and was that me? No, it wasn't me. So the problem in Pennsylvania is, and apparently in California now too.
Hi, Jacob. Jacob, it's shower time.
Oh, all right. Bye, Jacob. Thanks for
Bye,
coming.
Jacob.
The problem in Pennsylvania and the problem in California is right now, you've got both high courts for or at least the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, and I think it was a federal judge in California, that are ruling that the Secretary of State in Pennsylvania and Governor Newsom do not have the right to change election law. Secretary of State 2 days before the election was changing election law. And those changes can happen, and they can happen legally, but it's got to go through their legislature and not anybody else, not the Secretary of State, and certainly not the executive branch, right? The executive branch does not have the right to change or make law. Boom.
So,
Story.
real quick question.
Mhm.
Is that when they said that they could vote 3 days after election day?
Right. They were making
Okay.
changes to how long, they were making changes to the fact that signatures didn't have to match,
Right,
that
okay.
postmarks didn't matter anymore, and that it wasn't 3 days. What was, I
Oh, I
think it
thought it
was up
was
to
3.
9 days, wasn't it? Was it 9 days or 8 days? I mean, it went longer.
Okay.
It was 1 day. They didn't have the legal authority to do so.
Right. Right. And that's just it. They do not have the legal authority to change any of that.
Pennsylvania was 3 days with mail-in ballots. They were allowing to count without a postmark. North Carolina has something about 9 days, but I haven't heard a whole lot about.
Well, and that's, you know what, and that brings up, because you're right about that, for sure, North Carolina was later. But that brings up something too. This is not a partisan issue, right? Because if we're going to allow North Carolina to change their law, but just because the Republicans are winning, I mean, look, we should be concerned with any state that is violating the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah,
I don't
North
care if it
Carolina.
benefits Trump, I don't care if it benefits Biden.
I don't think there was any last-minute changes with North Carolina necessarily. That may have been done legislatively where they were counting.
Then they're 100, then they are
I'm not
100%.
100% sure on. I just haven't heard any.
And maybe that's why we're not hearing about it.
Right.
Maybe we're not hearing about it because it was done right. And I would have no problem. Pennsylvania, man, if they had run it through their legislature and they managed to pass this law and they said this is the way it's going to be, well, that's following the Constitution, no problem. But they didn't do that. And that's going to be the problem. Or at
And
least
so how do they get away with that?
well, they're not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be the thing.
I'll tell you how they get away with it. They get away with it by people just ignoring it and saying, oh, that's okay. It's not worth the fight. We're not going to say anything.
Right.
Exactly.
So let's be honest, right? How many do we have? We've got 30 of you here. Let's be honest. How many of you, before this election cycle started, knew what Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1 said?
Yeah, I knew that.
Right? It's apathy. That's how they get away with it. Because when they do this stuff, nobody knows.
Well, I didn't know it, Jim, but I did say talking between me and my husband and I asked him, I said, how can they just change things? They can't just go and move the deadline or say there's no postmark, it's okay. They can't do that.
Correct. And that's going to be the thing. And that's going to be the thing that ultimately the Supreme Court is going to have to rule. Now, the problem is going to be for those states, they don't have the activist courts in there anymore, right? They don't have the courts that are like, well, you know what? Yeah, I guess technically it was a violation, but we understand you were doing it for the right reason, so we're going to allow it to stand. They got an originalist court in there now, and they're liable to have trouble when this gets up there. Now, will it overturn the election? I don't know. And you know what? And today I'm down to, there's, you got some things coming out against the president now where he lost some cases, but then his attorneys are saying, look, we're purposely losing some of these cases so that we can get to the Supreme Court, which doesn't make sense to me because the Supreme Court doesn't have to hear appeals. They can leave it where it was. But
I don't know that they can though, because of that. I mean, that's a direct violation of that constitutional law, article right there. I mean, it's.
Well, I'm not talking about that. I mean, the cases we lost today, or when I say we, sorry, I'm not trying to be partisan here, but the cases that the president lost today were concerning his observers, that his observers weren't allowed in. That's what he lost. This has not been talked about yet at the courts, and this will go to the Supreme Court because this is a constitutional issue. And I believe that they're going to have a lot of trouble with an originalist court. There's no way an originalist court looks at this and says that is okay. Now, will it overturn the election? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to go as far to say any ballots that came in as a result of what laws you changed are now null and void. Maybe they will, or maybe they are going to fix this for the future. I don't know. But either way.
Yeah. I posted this in the chat, but I have a huge problem with any of this taking place after Election Day. I know the Federal Electrical Commission, I was just looking it up, has a date. Like, this is Election Day. For me, I don't like that any vote is counted after the Tuesday, November, where Election Day.
Not even absentee, not even mail-in, because you have plenty of time.
Yeah, I'm active duty military. I voted from Korea. I'm voting in Ohio, from Texas this year, and I had plenty of time to know when the election is and get it mailed in plenty of time. Like,
it's wait until November 2nd to mail it in. Shame on you, man.
It's on you.
Shame on you. Yeah. It's the same thing as if you have the flu on the 3rd, right? You wake up and you got the flu on the 3rd. We're not letting you go on the 4th to vote. You missed it. Now, I don't know what the remedy is. And I've said all along that I would have no problem. First off, just do away with mail-in ballots. Do away with it. The only ones that get absentee should be those that are infirm, can't leave their house, and those in the military, right? I mean, everybody knows when Election Day is. If it's important to you, I mean, so you don't go on vacation over November 3rd. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. If they want to make Election Day, if they want to make it 3 days, fine. But you have to show up at those polls, right?
Election
Maybe
week.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Right? So now the people that are like, well, I have to work, I can't make it. Okay, well, you can make it on Saturday. Maybe we make one of those days a national holiday. Nobody works. Everybody can go vote. But this mail-in stuff, it's just, there is too much room for fraud there. Allowing it to come in afterwards. You look at Georgia right now with that hand recount. I don't know if you guys saw the video that was out there today where they were in one precinct, they were done. They said they were done. And then all of a sudden they found 10 boxes of ballots or something. The guys went through and they're
2,800 votes.
Yeah, crazy. And they're just going through and they're finding these boxes that aren't even marked. I mean, it is an absolute clown show over there. And if this is any indication about how the federal election system works across the United States, no wonder we're fucked. Oops, screwed. Sorry. Oh, he's in the shower.
He's in the shower.
Yeah.
My concern is.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just wondered, like, what are they going to do? Because Pennsylvania is so notorious for having all these issues. Didn't they say the last 16 years?
Yeah, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, both.
Yeah.
And, I'm really trying to walk that line here where I'm not getting partisan. No, I'll just leave it. I'll leave it.
So here was something that I heard this morning, that the Las Vegas, I can't remember which county it was, Clark County, they were doing their certification today, and they decided not to certify for a specific precinct because they found irregularities that they could not explain. Yes, so they went through and basically, because there were so many irregularities that could affect the outcome of the election, they went ahead and said, we are going to do another election. They're doing a special election for that precinct.
And, you know, I guess good for them. And I guess they're probably allowed to do that.
Right, but yes, and that's actually what they had to do because they could not, and because their law states that because it could affect the outcome, the number of discrepancies could affect it, they needed to do a special election or else a judge would order them to. So they opted to do it. So my question, I guess, would be then, all right, so we have all these states, according to this, according to the Constitution, says, hey, states, you can make up your mind. So how do we, isn't there any, I guess we would have to almost come up with an amendment to say that it has to be done by this date. And do we let the states have that leeway to determine that? Because, I mean, if you look at everything that happened, we all should have to revote because I don't trust I mean, how many discrepancies are there that are irregularities that we don't know about?
You know, the one thing, so right now it does leave all of the election regulations to the states. The states can decide what they want to do. However, you got to remember that the one thing it says is that Congress is certainly allowed to, at the bottom, Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as to places of choosing senators. So I guess Congress could actually probably do it by law if I'm reading this right.
I was just going to ask about that. Is that basically what that's saying? Is that Congress can step in and nationalize the federal election?
That's the way I read it. I mean, we got any lawyers here?
I think that, and I think this is a really interesting clause from a constructionist point of view, which I think Jim and I both are. This might be the first time we've encountered in our study the concept of national supremacy over states' rights,
right.
where there is a power granted in the Constitution for the national government to regulate elections if they choose to. So this would be exactly the case if you have irregular elections going on, where Congress may, by law, and they would have to, of course, legislate that, make or alter such regulations to standardize the election process. And so this is I think it's the first time we've encountered the idea of national supremacy.
And the problem is, obviously, we all know it, is we are so divided right now that I don't know if you get the left to agree with the right on the law. You know what I mean? Because right now it's not partisan, but right now what is happening is benefiting the left. Now, you know, if it was benefiting the right would never, the Republicans would never pass a law. I mean, they're not going to legislate themselves out of a job. And they think that right now that's benefiting them. And I don't know if you're going to get them to come together again. I think you look at who is violating their oath and who isn't. And if your congressman is violating their oath, it's time to go. Buddy, I'd rather put a no name. We can vote that guy out in 2 years, you know, put a no name mechanic who has good ideas in there and let's see what he can do. But these career politicians are killing us, man.
So was this section 4 that we're talking about?
Yeah, we're on Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1.
So what I'm seeing there, this looks to me, the way I'm reading it, to be talking specifically about senators and representatives, not presidency. The way I'm reading it.
Yeah.
You are right on that one. You know what? You're right. I totally missed that.
Right, that's just senators and representatives.
However, when we get to Article 2, when we get to Article 2, it's still, the language is going to be the same. we probably did jump ahead a little bit there, but you're right. Because we're in right now the legislative, Article 1 is all legislative. So we are talking about, Brad, you're right. Good call on senators and representatives. Article 2 is going to be the same thing though. It's just going to be when we're dealing with and at the rate we're going, we're going to get into Article 2 sometime probably around June, and it's going to be way past the election. So I just wanted to bring it up, I guess. I don't know. I'm so excited. I'm just kidding. Please stick around. You guys are like, oh, screw this. I got stuff to do. We got to get through most of this in the winter, because once it hits summer, man, I'm never going to see anybody on Tuesdays. It's going to be light out still. You guys are going to be swimming, all apathetic again.
Nope.
All right.
Not a chance.
Nope.
They'll have you on the big screen out by the pool.
Okay. Well, maybe we all just go to Mike's house.
Yeah.
Where's
You guys over at Mike's house?
I don't have a pool.
Oh, you don't have a pool?
No,
Well, we could chip in for the pool.
The
I got a
one-
fire pit,
I'll
but that
start
doesn't
selling
usually
merch.
work well when it's 90 degrees outside.
I'll start
We
selling
could-
merch.
We just need a projector and a big screen, and we can see it around, you know.
It was 90 here today.
I got the yard size to do it.
Somebody mute Becky, please. Tell her that was 90.
I have an
All right.
RV. Let's go see Becky.
All right, moving on.
Okay.
So we'll go into Article 1, Section 4, Clause 2. I got about 4 minutes. Congress shall, now this is another one that was amended by the 20th Amendment. I'll tell you what, why didn't somebody do me a favor? Oh, okay. Here, I got it right here. Congress shall assemble at least once in every year. And now this is the part that was amended. And such meetings shall be on the first Monday in December unless they shall by law appoint a different day. So obviously the 20th Amendment changes that, and all it does is change it that they're going to meet on January 3rd of each odd number year following the regular November elections. So basically Senate the legislatures, the houses are seated by the 3rd, so they can take up any business they got to take up before January 20th. So that was it. It was just a date change. Now, the reason, though, that they have this in here, that the Congress shall assemble at least once every year, is because you got to remember, man, they were coming out of Great Britain, right? If the king did not agree with what the legislature was doing, he wouldn't allow them to meet. That was it. They had him arrested, he'd whatever. I mean, they just weren't allowed to meet. So they would go who knows how long without ever having a chance to meet. So that's why they put this in here. Now, obviously, we have King Michael I, who's telling us that we can't have more than 10 people in our house. And so who knows what he's going to do with the state legislature. But
And I just posted something on the link. You'll probably have to approve it, I think, Jim, but about quorum busting in the Senate. Not in here, but on the actual page. But I just posted about quorum busting, where they actually had rules in place for the Senate where if you don't have a quorum, they could arrest you and like bring you to the Senate to make sure that you meet.
oh yeah,
Yes, they can demand their presence. Yep.
what show was that? Where they went out and started arresting all of the senators.
Supernatural?
What was it?
Oh, I made that up.
No, it was one of those. It was one of those shows. It was the one with. Oh God. He was a Democrat man. It was on Netflix, I think. It was a great series about the inner workings, basically, of Washington. It was a fictional show.
House of Cards?
House of Cards. I think it was House of Cards, wasn't it? Where they went out to arrest. They weren't showing up for a vote, and they sent the police out there to arrest them and bring them all back in order to do their duty. I'm almost sure it was House of Cards. I could be wrong. It was a great show. That show right there almost made me want to become a congressman. Dirty ass.
You know what we're going to be watching? I'm going to go ahead and approve Mr. Chambos.
Yeah. Brad.
I know.
Where are we at here?
Like your name there.
All right, so it's 9 o'clock. Listen, I'm going to stop at 4. God, man, we are.
Crawling.
Or at section 4. Sorry. Man, we're going slow, but we're having good talk. I'll take good discussion over getting through the sections any day. I don't think anybody here so far to where we are, is anybody here completely confused? I would guess not. We're explaining it all pretty well, I think. I think we're all talking about it, and I'll take that.
Jim, I think you finished section 4. I think we'll start at section 5 next.
Section 4, clause 2. Oh, I did. So we're done with section 4. And I'll make a note there. So we're going to start with next week. We'll pick it up at section 5. And man, it's been 2 days or 2 meetings now. We're only halfway through, not even 10 sections here. So
That's okay.
it is okay. It is okay because I think we're getting a good understanding of what's in here.
Quality over quantity.
100%, my man, 100%. Now, if we can just translate this to the elections and to polls and start getting these dirty sons of bitches out of there.
Yep.
Start putting in just regular old dudes that,
Jim Larkin.
Larkin 2020,
I'm not running for Congress.
2024.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. Let's end it. I'll go over to the page. If you guys want to discuss more, we can discuss it there. Go back, give me some feedback. Let me know what you guys think. And we'll end it for here.
Okay, and if anybody does come across any other resources that you find useful, forward them along to the EDC 1787 at gmail.com, and then we'll get those additional resources posted in the folder. So it's up there for you guys now.
Right on. All right. See you next week.
Hey,
Great.
Jim,
Thanks, everyone.
Jim, you know you won't run. You'll have to wear suits.
Yeah, no, have you seen Jim Jordan? Jim Jordan's my man. He doesn't even own a coat. I'm good. Somebody wanted me to start a GoFundMe for him so we can get him a coat. All right. That's it.
Night, everybody. See you next week.
Everyone.